exciting time? You ready to take a show on the road? See what
Oh
you got?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and got to make sure I pack up the right socks and hats and pencils and clipboards, and it's always a exciting thing and a tenuous thing to the first road trip, and so yeah, we're extremely excited. Our last practice, official practice before we hit the road, and I think we're in a good mindset to see what we can do.
Last time we talked, I think you weren't sure exactly what Nelly was going to do. It sounds like you're going to give him a start. I feel like that's where he's best slotted right now.
Yeah, I think our bullpen by committee, certainly there's some guys that we've got penciled in ahead of others in certain roles and matchups, but not to a point where we feel like we're able to say we have an eighth inning guy and a ninth inning guy, and hopefully that'll happen as we move along of how they react to pressure situations and if they pitch up to their capabilities, certainly. And we think we've got some good arms there. It's just a lack of experience and not somebody that's accustomed to that role, except for probably Nico Teleshay is probably the most experienced guy there, and quite frankly, because of that, he's probably our number one choice at the back end and at this point. We feel like with Nelly being in the number 2 slot of the starting rotation gives us 4 formidable starting guys. There's different ways to look at that. Certainly if you're in the game, going into where you would use your bullpen and plan on using the bullpen much earlier in the year because we don't want to hurt anybody. That looks good on paper, but if you end up at the end of 9 losing the game, it doesn't really matter whether you gave up the runs early or late. So anyway, we hope that the quality of our starters can keep us in the game, and then the relief guys will do what they're supposed to do.
Is Nelly stretched out pretty good at this point?
Yeah, he's ready. He's been getting groomed for this the entire time. Last year we switched Kenyon from the bullpen to start, and as you saw, it takes a while to build up their endurance. Way back when, it might have been 2010, 11, somewhere in there, we had Sherfy throwing a lot of pitches, and lo and behold, our very first game in Hawaii, he threw 110 pitches in relief in an extra inning game, but he had already thrown 90 in practice. So we hope that our relievers don't throw 110 pitches this time. But anyway, that was an example. Easier to go that way, I think, to have Nelly ready to start. And if he or Kenyon would be a candidate there. I mean, if we need a closer, those 2 guys have done it at the highest level. So that would be good news because that would mean that somebody else has emerged as a consistent starter, that we have that luxury of putting Nelson back in the bullpen.
You still feel pretty good about Kafka, where he's at?
Absolutely. He went toe-to-toe with Kenyon and Nelly. Of course, they didn't jump into it with both feet because of their summer commitments, but quite frankly, he outpitched everybody in the fall.
So for Ryan, is the thought this year that he's going to solely play pitcher, or will he still play?
At this point, yeah, we've got a couple young infielders, and it was thrown out there. What's our best defensive infield? If we have a lead late in the game, and let's say Nelson's not out of the game because he didn't pitch, and you've got a superior defender like that sitting on the bench, it's tempting to put him back as a defensive replacement. We don't want it to distract from his role, which is a starting pitcher, and the last thing we want to do is hurt him. So I just had this conversation with him in an emergency situation. If I asked Ryan, hey, how's your arm feel? I asked him to tell me the truth. They all want to play and they all want to help the team. So if it's stiff, I want him to say, Coach, it's stiff. So anyway, not planting the seed, and that might be down the road, but certainly he's a superior defender, and we think the other kids will come along. But if they don't, then that might be something that we look at more seriously.
Steer's another veteran. It looks like he's going to be moving to a slightly different role. How's he taking it?
Oh, I think he loves it. I think he's kind of was nudging us, reminding us that he played short in his past. The reluctancy to do that right away, because it makes perfect sense to me now, was Nolan Arenado at third base. I mean, he's such a spectacular defender at third. In the college game, corner infielders' defense is more critical than the major leagues because of the bunting game and all that kind of stuff. So, anyway, there's no question that you want your best defender as a shortstop. He is our best infield defender, most experienced, and the game goes very slow for him, as I like to say. Which, if he's got a freshman on one side and a freshman on the other, which looks like that's going to be the starting lineup on Friday, it's good to have him in between two freshmen.
Got a few oars here in this lineup.
Yeah,
Do you
lots
expect some of those position battles to continue as you go into the season?
Yeah, and that's kind of why we did that. I think it was unfair just to say 9 or 10 guys. That's reflective of the battles. It could be some platooning. It could be matchups. I think one of the things you want to do along the way of a difficult preseason is test people, and without it costing you ball games, be ready to put your best 9-man lineup out there when league rolls around. So you can't have the luxury of really stinking it up in the preseason either. Every game's critical, including this weekend. But I think that'll happen as we move along.
Such a quality opponent to start the season. I feel like you guys are geared up to really see what they're made of against a team like this.
Oh, yeah, I think they're excited. I think I like where the team's at as far as knowing how they play the game. I think,
Mean your own guys.
yeah, we get the opportunity each and every year if they're returners to play against the best of the best. So if you're a coach or an athlete and it's a top 5 team, which they're ranked, I think anything less than looking forward to the challenge, it makes you wonder why you're here, because these are the kind of series you look forward to if you're a coach or a player.
What makes Texas Tech so dangerous?
Well, they play good baseball. You don't get into the College World Series without doing that and get ranked, and they're very athletic. They've got some arms back. You've got a third baseman that I hear I've seen him on TV, Young, as they pronounce it, Young. Is a tremendous baseball player, a great coach that's made an impact there, and great fan base, and so all the above. Both teams will be their first series, so I'm sure they're just as excited as us coming in there as we are to go there.
Talking through all this, is the bullpen kind of the biggest question mark in your mind, kind of seeing like moving the chess pieces around this week?
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. You never know. We're about ready to get on a Bronco. You don't know which direction it's going to go. You hope you can predict it. Some of the freshmen that played the heck out of it, hopefully they continue doing that. But sometimes when the lights go on, they get a little tentative, etc. The catching position will be the development of that will be ongoing, and then certainly whichever two freshmen play the infield. Fromke, Foxcroft, and Nowitzki, their development will be critical for the development of this team as well, in my opinion.
Looking at your roster, obviously you lost a couple guys from last season, but you got a good blend of young guys and experienced guys. What do you make of your makeup of the team?
Love the makeup. Again, Rob's question is, are we looking forward to going into Texas Tech? I like where our guys are fundamentally. I like the work that they put in. I like how they react to negative things that happen within a baseball game, and I can assure you things tend to happen in a baseball game. And I like the way they respond to each other. The chemistry is really good. Now, as I said before, playing time sometimes tests the chemistry of the team. Hopefully they won't take lack of playing time out on each other, if you know what I'm saying there. I don't think they will. I think they're in a really good spot collectively, and they like each other. They like competing with one another. They seem to be showing unselfish tendencies, but we're scrimmaging ourselves, so everybody gets to play. So now can the same type of unselfishness continue through the whole year, where they don't care when we win who gets the credit for the win? And I believe the leadership guys have shown good standards and good leadership to the younger guys about what Duck baseball is all about.
What particular guys have you seen step up in that leadership role this
Goldfarb certainly being a fifth-year guy. Steer, Matthews, DeLuca, Jovan, Nelson, even Cameron Campbell was delegated to the bench because of injury last year, but he's really emerged as a leadership guy behind the plate, which is a good thing. So those upperclassmen have really said, "I'll take you under my wing," and we're relying on them to lead a little bit more this year, and I think they've embraced that part of it too. In other words, ask their opinion about things that we should be doing better for the team or personally, or more one-on-one meetings with the upperclassmen. So hopefully that lends to good mental health for the team, good competitive health.
And then with Goldfarb defensively behind the plate, you feel very confident with that?
Yeah, he's still got a ways to go. Obviously, he was trying to learn that position very quickly. Invested a lot of time last fall, and then ended up not catching an inning. And so went out in the summer and worked on it even more, and came back this fall. So he's farther along certainly than he was last year. But that's a position that's unlike any other position in baseball. You have so much to learn, not only about what you're doing, but what the pitcher's doing, which is instrumental to the defensive effort. So it's ongoing with him, and I think depending on how many innings he catches here for us, I think for him to move on professionally and be looked at as a catcher is a good thing for Golden.